Have you ever felt like fat loss is harder for you than for other people? Have you ever felt like maybe you struggle more than you should? That's what this podcast is all about. So, hello and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. I am cutting down the bullshit. I'm explaining to you exactly why fat loss is harder for you because for many of you, it actually is going to be. And I'm not going to lie. But it doesn't make sense to just tell you that it's going to be slower for you without actually explaining it to you. So let's get this started. Now, I don't know what to call you, Rubinators, rock lifters, my favorite people. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for always coming back. I don't even know who listens to this. It would mean the world if you let me know as well, because I do appreciate you all for listening to what I have to say and letting me in your ears. So many women that are in their 40s and 50s feel like it's a fat problem. But most of the time, we are underbuilt, undernourished, and underfueled. We might be overeating, but it's not strategic, which really is confusing. And that's usually why eating less fails, but also eating more fails. I want to cover everything that could be the cause of fat loss or body composition feeling harder for you. That's one of them. If we feel like we have no time left, or if we just want to get this over and done with and then deal with the pre-diet phase later, or our metabolism later, or muscle later, or getting stronger later, it makes it even harder. And that's the hardest part of it all. But if you can do it the right way, you won't have to diet again. You're not crazy or alone if you feel like you're the only one finding it hard, because you're not. It's not that you're mentally weak. It's just that people make shit look easy. So when things are hard or different or not what you're used to, you tell yourself that something's wrong with you. You feel that you're not good enough or that you're going to fail. If you think that you can just easily master these five things because it's only five things, and then you have a bad day and then you can't master just these basic damn five things, what's the point? Mastering even one thing is a really damn hard thing as an adult because you're not just mastering that one habit. You're trying to juggle all the old ones that have been there. You're trying to juggle a whole history, depending how old you are, how many years you had to juggle this bullshit going through all of this. It's the system, the online marketing system, the dopamine system, the human system that's failing you. We're failing ourselves inadvertently because we end up going for things that aren't right for us. So then the market for them increases and increases, and then we just end up feeding the cycle that's keeping us stuck. And it's kind of funny when you think of it that way. And that's kind of where your power comes when you decide to be a rebel. It's kind of like people like rebelling against politics. This is politics. This is politics against everything that you want to be able to fight for, everything that you want to succeed through. Be a rebel against it. You're not going to stand for all of this bullshit getting sold at you. I want it to make sense, and I want to break down a lot of the crap that's out there because I don't want you falling for another it's your cortisol, comment cortisol, and I'll send you my guide bullshit. So let's talk about why it's harder for you. Now, if you're petite and if your calorie needs are lower, you have a lot less wiggle room. That's kind of like trying to drive across the country. Australia, let's just say Australia is big. Think of Australia being this big country. Because if we think about driving across the state in America, it's not all that big, but we could say driving from East Coast to the West Coast. But you have a tiny fuel tank. You're going to have to keep refilling that up a lot more along the way than if you could have this really large one that took you a lot more. It's like you have a lot more refueling needs through the process and you can't go along the whole way. This isn't just if you're petite. This is also if you haven't built a lot of muscle mass. You're very lucky to even gain 4 or 5 kilos in a year. That 4 or 5 kilos is a lot more metabolic. And ignore people when they say it doesn't burn all that much. It actually burns so much. That muscle isn't at rest. Like muscle actually does shit. Fat doesn't do shit. Muscle lifts things. And when that muscle lifts things, it's going to break down and then repair. And that lifting in itself, that breaking down and repairing process, like all of that costs a lot of energy. It costs a lot of energy. And the more metabolic that you can make yourself, the earlier that you get into this stuff. And if you have time to do even aerobic training, this is what we need to take into consideration for why things are harder for us. Most of you would have kids. Those of you that don't have kids, you have your careers, you have relationships, you have other things that you want to give priority to. Why this is so important for you to lean into this process instead of just thinking of the cost of what could happen if you allow yourself to eat more, if you allow yourself to just do the right thing up front and start thinking of the cost of not doing that. Instead, the emotional tax, all the tax of whatever you pay mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, of always having to think about food, of results, of discipline, of hating your body, of body picking yourself, of love handle pinching, of circling every single body part that you don't like about yourself, of having your mind consumed in food anxiety and body anxiety when you're supposed to be out with your family enjoying them, or hiding behind your kids and not really getting in photos, and then them suffering because their mum hasn't got a lot of photos that they can look back at. Like, there is so much cost to not changing. We need to think of that when we are doing this, because you can set yourself up for the most fulfilling life, so you can be there for your kids, so you can be there for a more, like, make life something worth living, make it full of love. And a lot of us feel like we're giving that up if we go all into fitness. It can be like, well, I already have all of that, but do you really? And what's that going to look like when you're 80? It is so important to think of that, because hormonal shifts post 35 years old, post menopause, with lower estrogen, you're a lot more sensitive with cortisol, your thyroid's impacted. All of this shit demands your muscle mass, demands you to have metabolic flexibility, demands you to have this wiggle room. This environment of food demands you to have more wiggle room, because you have a smaller margin of error when your calories are so low, when your engine is so low, when you don't move much through the day, when you haven't built up a baseline of movement. Like, it's so easy for me or for you to think I can easily just build my steps up anyway. But it's really not, because you have to build your way up to that and then make it something that becomes a part of your life. But it needs to mean something to you. So much better than having to pay all of these expenses to healthcare. Fat loss is harder for you if you're over 45. If you're a smaller person, if you're sedentary, you are going to have other health issues come up. Because if you're sedentary, then as we get older, there's going to be a host of other issues there. If you're under 5'5", even 5'3", if you're over 40 and you didn't spend your 20s in the gym building a solid base, then you're starting this game without any real fuel in the tank. You're like that little engine trying to cross the country. And that doesn't mean you're screwed. It just means that you need to stop winging it. You need a different approach. And yeah, you probably do have lower calorie needs, but it still goes by the fact that 1,500 calories isn't your maintenance. If you're still going to try to start there, it's going to be really difficult for you as a small person, but you do need a different approach to fat loss. Women over 40 who haven't built up their metabolism already need a completely different approach to fat loss. So if you're eating under 1,800 calories, typical fat loss approaches aren't going to work for you. Actually, I don't even have to say that. Look at your history. What have you been doing so far? I had a lady message me saying that she has to cut her calories down to like 1,000 to 1,200 to see any changes in fat loss. I can imagine you probably haven't been able to do a successful fat loss phase in a very long time, because that's very hard for you to manage. If you aren't able to carry that out, then I would assume that she doesn't have the results that she wants. She probably doesn't even trust herself to do a build yet. Most people don't, and I don't blame you. It's scary. It's scary to do alone because you don't know whether you're doing the right things, and you don't want to accidentally gain a heap of fat and not muscle. You don't want to be doing it the wrong way. Then you probably still don't want to hire someone, and then you don't want to undo it all. And that's the worst part of all of this. It's usually harder for us because we feel like we should already know how to do it, and then we don't ask for help. I had a client who was 110 pounds, 55 kilos, around that. She came to me every single diet, burning out, binging, tired, nightmare around her kids. Her kids, she would snap at them, get moody. She needed to not focus on dieting. What she said is, you made me feel like herself again. I feel like my young self again. It didn't just give her her life back. It allowed her a chance to live her best life moving forward. We don't want to build a house with two bricks. We want to use the right tools for the right job, because that's what works. So why eating less doesn't work. This is why eat less, move more doesn't work either. I'm not anti-cardio, because some people can't make moving more work. This is where cardio can come in, but it needs to be strategically planned so that it doesn't eat away from your recovery and the thing that's important, which is actually building muscle. So eating less is going to make things so much harder for you if you haven't already built the base, because willpower doesn't work. It's not that you have less willpower than someone else. It's been shown that everyone has around the same willpower. It's just the common pattern that I see is a lot of women undereat through the day, and then they end up eating even more at night. Sometimes that backfires in terms of binging, or in other ways, they never actually feel satisfied despite their belly feeling full, or they just graze through the day. I had a client once that never really felt for full meals, so she would just have something small. And because she was so scared of eating more food, she kept on repeating this. It took a while to get her out of that loop. It's very mindset driven. The nutrition stuff is really difficult for you to manage when food is so much more than just food. It has so much more to it. If we can understand that this is going to take some time, we're giving ourselves permission to actually feel good in the process instead of hating our way there. Not only that, if you're saving calories and eating little through the day, that's slowing down your metabolism so much. Many women skip breakfast, slowing down your metabolism. You might say, well, that's not true. What is your metabolism? Do you actually know? Because if you're then lagging through the day or your blood sugar is all over the place, if you're a highly stressed person, you need to really prioritize carbs because that's going to keep your blood sugar a lot more stable if you're choosing the right types of carbs. A lot of people end up getting cravings because they don't understand this. Then they keep themselves trapped in a cycle of trying to be good with food to only then blow it on the other end. Once again, this all comes down to self-trust. And if you're then not able to give the best in your sessions, then you're going to just get a worse body composition and slow your metabolism down more because now your muscle is going to pay the price. We need to really think about how everything is connected, because only then can you get the best results. And just remember that you can't fight biology with discipline or willpower. You need to set yourself up so that you don't have to use willpower. Like I was saying about willpower, everyone has the same sort of willpower. It's just that some people aren't always put to the test of needing to use it. If you don't drain your willpower battery so much through the day, you have a lot more left to exercise the best choices for the things that actually matter, for the things that aren't yet ingrained habits. Going back to the smaller food, if we think about trying to eat less, Weight Watchers, I actually had this conversation with one of my friends. She replied to my story. There's all the portion sizes with the tiny little containers that you buy with all of these like weight friendly, which I think is absolutely bullshit because they're designed to keep you fat. Weight Watchers and all those particular freezer ready meals, they're designed to keep you over fat and under muscled. They will lead to rebound more than anything. They will lead to you gaining more fat than losing. Tiny meals not only keep you hungry, but the way that these meals are structured, they're highly palatable. They're not even good meals. They're usually really high in all the tasty things that either make you want more food. They never actually give your taste buds a chance to get used to what real food tastes like. Real food that isn't lathered in salt and fats and saturated fats. I would say carbs too, but most of it is usually salts and fats and all the additives, and most of them are too low on protein. Don't blame willpower or discipline. Kind of the same with the deficit. Blame your setup. Something that we can do, because we can't exercise discipline and willpower all the time. We can set ourselves up to have a better metabolic standpoint, and that is through being a lot more active through the day. Wherever you can, walking. Or just adding in, like, getting a morning walk. And if you can't get in your walks anywhere else, that morning walk could start up your day amazingly. I don't expect you to just get up and do a morning walk. Just fitting in walks does a lot more than just getting up your steps. It's mental health. It gives you energy. At first, it might feel draining, but it gives you so much more. Like at the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is go for a walk, especially when it's late. I would rather still get in a walk, even if it's a shorter one, because it actually sets me up for a better sleep. Except I need to get my ass to the gym earlier still so that I can have more time after the gym to actually play with. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. And your metabolism is built from building up a baseline life of activity, of muscle. More cardio can make you more hungry, can make you more fatigued, can lead to more belly fat because a lot of people don't do cardio the right way. Number one, they underfuel it, they underfeed it, and their training isn't there. If your training is there, then it makes it easier. And I hate to be the one kind of going against the grain here with an unpopular opinion, but I know that everyone's all on this health stuff. But it's like, yes, we can do that. But lifting weights does the same benefits with the heart health and all that shit too. It's just, yes, cardio is a different stimulus, but you need to put priorities where priorities belong. And muscle and strength training and all that stuff deserve full focus up front. If you've never done that before, like the people that are succeeding in both, they didn't start there because cardio has only become a thing now. Many of them have done the lifting before. They made that the priority. They built a shit ton of muscle to start with. And then they started getting into the cardio once it became this thing, me included. And that's why I backed off on my half marathon things. It's like, I want to get strong and I want to build muscle. And if I want to do a half marathon, I actually have a time that I want to beat. And that's going to come with a lot of training and a lot of recovery resources. I could probably do both, but I don't have the recovery resources right now. So you need to meet yourself with where you're at. Super, super important. So get more walking in, and you actually burn more calories per minute of walking than you do per minute of lifting. And then over the course of that, you still burn more because when you're lifting, there's lift intensity and then rest. You burn a lot more with cardio and with walking, yes, but it's the muscle that biases fat loss. Just because you're burning more calories doesn't mean you're burning fat and doesn't mean you're losing fat. Key distinction. Next part ties into that. Muscle is your metabolic gold. We need to protect it. We need to build it. Most people don't have a weight loss problem. They have a muscle deficit, an under-muscled problem. Muscle deficit. It's not a calorie deficit you need. You need to get out of a muscle deficit first. Because no amount of cardio or chicken salads or protein or even just plainly lifting weights is going to make up for what you haven't built. You need to train with intention, progressive overload with making it your prime focus to get as strong as possible and build as much muscle as possible. And then you can add in the cardio and the other things. Prioritize muscle first. You don't need shrinking portions of food and shrinking your carbs. You need to think of enhancing the body, getting stronger, chasing that, and then everything else will happen. This is part of the primer phase. And this doesn't mean that you're not, like, if you have substantial fat to lose, you will be losing fat in the process if you're actually focusing on health-focused, feel good, nourish, recovering things. I have had so many clients that have lost so much fat. I don't want to say weight because I don't use the scales. I usually get measurements after like whatever many months when I see their photos and I'm like, holy shit, you lost a lot. Let's get measurements and see what you lost. And it's ridiculous because we've never even focused on fat loss. Sometimes I would say to them, do you actually want to do a fat loss phase now? And then build your calories up? Or do you want to just stay where you are? Sometimes they want to go into a fat loss phase. Other times they feel really good. I had a client that wanted to go into fat loss phase and I was getting her prepped for it. And as soon as push came to shove, she's like, I actually don't want to cut my calories. I love getting strong and I love eating food. I have the flexibility now. This is why it's really hard sometimes to share progress photos because my clients really, really completely change their lives. And over time, their body composition is one of the best ones that they've had their entire life when they've been fighting for it and hating themselves to a place they never really got to. The game is walking more, lifting heavy, 3-4 times a week consistently. Don't burn yourself out. Burning yourself out isn't going to get you anywhere but burnt out. Okay, next section. But yeah, that's part of the primer phase. I've already spoken about the primer phase many times. That all ties together. If you go through all of my solo podcasts, which they're every second one, you will hear a series of what progress looks like. That kind of all ties together. But none of this matters if you don't allow yourself to challenge beliefs, to challenge the hard, to challenge the difficult resistance that you will feel, because your body is like a battery and your brain is like a battery. You're draining them with fatigue, with hyperfixation on all of these things, because your body can be doing all the right things, but your brain is still focusing on the dieting, on how hard it is for you, on, oh my God, this is so much work. It's like, okay, well, this isn't actually the problem. We need to look outside of your life. I wish I can remember. I know who said it now. I need to share that from one of my clients. She's like, I've been dreading the gym for the last couple of weeks, but I realized that it's because all of my life stress outside of it has left me getting into the gym sluggish. I haven't had a really good sleep because there was just so much going on with her life, but she kept the routine and she accepted that while she was training. And now she's feeling on top of the world because she got her night routine back. Your night routine is everything, and it might feel like you're relaxing and you're charging yourself by watching TV, but most of the time you're not. You're just tiring yourself out more. It's just numbing. And I'm not saying don't do that, because I am human like you. Things get sacrificed for that, and I'm making trade-offs, but that's okay. Sometimes it is really relaxing. It's just pick your poison. And if it's impacting you in a way that you're not happy with, you need to change it. And you get a lot more leeway once you've built up a good enough system. Just keep that in mind. Like, I get a lot of leeway with my food, luckily. I get a lot of leeway with it. And I'm so grateful that I put in the work to start with to have this leeway. Because otherwise my body would not still maintain itself where it is now. Tying this up with the mindset of maintenance and the maintenance of mindset. Maintenance and mindset, I think, come hand in hand, because mindset is everything. And maintenance, we feel, is this place that is like this pause where nothing happens. And I do remember referring to this as a momentum phase in the past. It's just maintenance calories. That's why I don't talk in phases. And I feel like we do a massive disservice in talking in phases. I keep saying a fat loss phase. That's because that's what people know it as, but I need to stop saying that. I just need to start calling it a deficit. Call it as it is. You're in a calorie deficit. Because then people start asking, what phase am I in? Well, nothing. You're in this thing called life, and you're either going to get into a deficit or you're building, you're improving, you're living your life. You're getting better at exercises. You're doing the things that are going to build a body because that's what the end goal is. There's no real phases in all of this. I really need to put something up on that. If you have any idea on how and what you would want to know about that particular concept, please shoot me a message on Instagram, because I feel like I'm doing a massive disservice to you. And so many other people do it way too often that if I can say it in a way that makes sense and has you view things differently, which I'm hoping I did here, then I'm at least hoping that I made a positive impact on your whole journey. And you don't feel like you need to live to this timeline of phases and you need to be in this phase or this phase or this phase. It's just a process. And then you'll be like, well, what if I want to go into a surplus phase or a building muscle phase? It's just that you can't build muscle when you're in a deficit, but you're still trying to build muscle. You're always trying to build muscle. You're always trying to build strength. That comes to training. It's just that, where is your food? Is your food going to allow for that or not? Maintenance can allow that for a while, and then you might need to eat more food, and then you might need to eat more food there. Let's just talk about the fact that you're either in a calorie deficit or you're building muscle. When we see things in phases and things need to happen here and here and here, urgency becomes the enemy of progress. And this goes back to my very first solo episode I ever did, which came off a rant from a group call, which I am so grateful that it started everything, because it is my favorite podcast. It is an analogy that I've used for ages, but urgency is the enemy of progress, because you can't expect a seed to just start germinating straight away. And it depends on the seed. Like, do you want to build something that lasts, something that builds really strong? You're going to build an oak tree. Oak trees take a really freaking long time to build. Are you going to let that stop you from watering the seed? Because what's the whole freaking point? There was a really good quote by James Clear, and it went something like, if the only reason you're not pursuing something is because of the length of time it will take you to achieve it, you should start right now. Think long term. Huge. Like, it is huge. And it's one of the biggest things that holds people back, sadly. We just see how long something's going to take, but you can't run a marathon on a 1% battery. And you also can't run a marathon without training for it. And you also can't run a marathon barefooted. Yet that's the way that we mostly do things. We're going into things without having, like, we're not prepared for it. We're ill prepared, which is why we end up circling around the bush. And it's like, well, it's just a fat loss phase. Well, actually, no, you're fundamentally changing your body. It's just like, it's not just coaching a human. Like, you can fundamentally fuck up someone's mind. And sadly, a lot of coaches do that with disordered eating patterns. You can improve someone's health. You can set someone up for life. There is so, like, this stuff is what matters. Coaches are so much more than just getting you to train in a certain way or eat in a certain way. And for so many of us, it is going to be a harder process. And sometimes it's not most of the time, it's not just hard for us because we are smaller or shorter. A lot of the time it's our lifestyles, but most of the time it's because we've been doing this for so long that we don't know any other way in our mindsets. We don't even see that it is a problem. We don't even see that we have a particular mindset, because we've been living it for so long that we believe it to be so fundamentally true. And I can't just make you see something a certain way. I had a particular client, I couldn't get her to see something a particular way. I had to learn how to meet her on the emotional level and validate her on the emotional level. And that's kind of what changed the game for me. When I realized that muscle is so important, my strength matters so much to me, and the fragility of life, the fragility of age, for some odd reason, just being in my 30s now, I don't want to lose muscle. I don't want to be in a place where I don't have adequate strength first. I want to build as much muscle as I can up front. I want to build as much strength as I can up front. Else is only harder when you're under muscled, over dieted, overstressed, and don't have another perspective on the mindset that's keeping you stuck. So please share this with anyone that you know that is going through this, that any of it. If you want to hear anything, let me know. I have nothing else yet to promise you, but I can promise you some juice. I know that you hear this all the time on a lot of podcasts, and it's like, well, why bother? I can't be bothered. What's the point? No, but seriously, it means the world to me. I don't know how to make you more inclined to do it, other than if you rate me 5 stars and then show me on Instagram. I will see if I can do something for you for free, like a form check or give you advice on training, anything like that. Just, it will mean the world to me. Thank you.